Yeah, we want to get you guys in and out of here because we know you have things to do today. My name's Jean Finari. Most of you know me, some of you may not, but I'm the executive assistant and deputy clerk here in Geneva. I am the one that gets all of your liquor license questions and applications and processes your license every year. So it's nice to have you here today. If you have not received your renewal packet, you really should have by now. It's been almost a month, so if you haven't, please let me know and we'll get that to you before you leave today. But again, those are due April 3rd. Close of business. We are open until 4:30 now, Monday through Friday. So make sure you get those in to me by then. And at this point, I'd like to turn it over to our Deputy Chief, Matt Dean, who's going to get things kicked off for us this morning.
Thank you, Jean. Thanks, everyone, for being here. I see a lot of familiar faces. I'm really happy that you guys were here and those joining us over video later. Just a kind of brief introduction for myself. I've been with the department now for 17 years. Just recently took over as Deputy Chief last August. I'm primarily presenting to you guys today is going to be Sergeant Brad Jardee. He is the one that will do the majority of your backgrounds for either yourselves, your employees, your managers, things like that. So he and Jean primarily have worked really hard at trying to kind of give an overview of some of the different classifications of your licenses, what those mean, kind of some of the State of Illinois Liquor Commission kind of reminders for everyone, just so we're all on the same page in terms of what your liquor licenses are. Before I turn it over to Brad, who will do the majority of the presentation for you, I just wanted to mention we did set some Bassett dates. There's a flyer and a sign-up sheet over there on the table. Those dates are going to be June 12th and August 31st. We tried to align those dates with some of our major festivals with Swedish Days and Festival of the Vine. So those dates are preceding those two festivals, though the hours are from 6 to 10. So Brad will touch on Bassett a little bit in his presentation. He and I usually do the majority of the classes together. We hold those at the Public Works facility. For all of you, the cost is $15 for an employee, and for out of the city of Geneva businesses, it's $30. It's a very good program. I think we do a very good job at kind of going over a little bit more of an overview of the classifications and then the information that really your servers, anybody in that chain of alcohol service really needs to know in terms of preventing underage sales, knowing what to do, handling when to cut off service and those types of things. So it's a really beneficial program. I think you and your employees will all enjoy it. So without further ado, I'll introduce Brad Jardee.
Thank you. Good morning. Bear with me here. My computer wanted to stop working. There we are. All right. My name is Brad Jardee. I've been an officer with the department for 15 years. I've been a sergeant for the last 6, almost 7 now. I'm new to this role, however, as the Administrative Services Sergeant. So I've been in this position about a year. Trial by fire, getting a lot of liquor license applications right out of the bat when I started this time last year. So my predecessor did what he could to kind of explain the process to me, but a lot of this I had to learn on the fly. A lot of this I learned through Jean's help throughout the way, who she's been instrumental in making sure I know what the heck I'm talking about. But there are chances today, actually a strong likelihood, I'm going to misspeak. So in that case, I'm going to have her throw something at me, yell, say something, correct me so I don't say the wrong thing, because laws are complicated, and that's kind of the point of this presentation today. And the point of our job too as law enforcement is, we don't know everything, we can't know everything, we don't expect you guys to know everything, but you guys are held accountable for those laws, those codes, and it's important that you know the basics. Common sense should prevail prevail. However, we always say common sense isn't that common. So we want to make sure that the big things that are going to get you guys into trouble, you guys are well aware of, so you don't have a violation, so you guys are in compliance, so we can help you guys work with us to make sure that you guys are meeting all those paperwork requirements, that you guys are meeting all those standards as required by you by the state of Illinois and by the city of Geneva. In addition to Gene and Matt here, we've got in the back who's hiding, but look at that beautiful smile on him back there. Dustin Schultz, our fire marshal, who helps with some of the site inspections as well. You've probably seen him on some of our outdoor seating licenses, which we'll talk about, and special events inspections, any facility inspections as well. He's going to be the one to talk about the fire code aspects of things, and will be available for questions as well. I'm going to try to talk fast, and if you guys have questions, we'll have an opportunity for you guys to ask those as we go. So at the end, we'll, if you could save those up, we'll be able to answer whatever questions come up along the way. But be patient. Hopefully we'll get to some of those as we go. I know a lot of familiar faces in here, so I apologize too if I'm saying stuff you already know, but just kind of as a review. As a refresher for me, I had to learn a lot of this stuff as I go. Going through the code, I have a copy in front of me just in case, again, I mess up. And again, that's what Gene's here for, but we want to make sure that you guys are reminded of some of these things so we can start off the year on a good foot. So real quick, classifications, because this has changed recently over the years. And with COVID and everything being what it was, everything kind of had some quote-unquote exceptions to it and differences that maybe allowed us outside of the scope of some of our licensing with different provisions with being able to serve different places and different areas and whatnot. We want to make sure that you guys are back to where we're adhering to those specific codes in our ordinances that keep you within your parameters. So A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. Sounds like an Sesame Street episode, right? Nice and easy, not so complicated, but it does have some nuances specifically under each one of those categories, and we'll talk about that. So I hope that everyone here knows where you fall under, and if you have questions about that, you know where to go and refer to the code. Some of these things do have specific areas where you're going to have to look at the different subdivisions under those categories to see if your business applies to one versus the other. We'll talk about that. The main one where it's going to be a question is probably going to be in the temporary special events. So that's what we're going to cover predominantly today. As law enforcement, I'd be remiss not to talk about the law and breaking the law and what we see on the street. I worked midnight shift for a period of my career, as did Deputy Chief Dean. So I occasionally work night shift, and we still read reports and experience this on occasion of what violations occur. We like to have a good relationship with our liquor license holders where we're not holding everybody accountable for every incident. If it was just a good faith, I messed up, oops, I didn't realize. But again, another reason for this presentation is we want to make sure you have the right information so you know ahead of time before a violation occurs. Another reason why BASTIT certifications are so important, so you know what your state requirements are, so you know what you can and can't do or what you should or should not do based on what the laws say. Because we don't want you to lose your liquor license, which is in essence going to be your livelihood and your money maker for your business. But the common violations that we see in law enforcement, the big one on the street that our law enforcement officers encounter, especially with the bars and taverns, is violation of hours. Somebody staying open too late. The big one I see with this one happened pre-COVID when we had a lot more bar traffic. This has kind of subsided quite a bit, but we'll talk about what those hours are and what that means. Violation of license, again, why we're here to kind of explain some of those licensing issues, and if you have specific questions about your licensing, I would refer you to code, or you can ask Gene and I questions about that, and we'll talk about the different issues with that. But if somebody operates outside the scope of their license, that's going to be obviously a big issue. If you aren't adhering to what your rules and regulations are, your specific seating pattern of your outdoor seating license, or what we believe you to be serving under, obviously that's going to be a violation. Unregistered managers, we've done the best we can to make sure everybody receives the background. However, sometimes with the food service industry, especially today, I understand how hard it is to get good help for you guys, and you are struggling to get good people in there. However, managers need to be BASTIT certified, and they need to be gone through the background check if you have a new manager within your business under the scope of our license. There's a responsibility of the manager. They're operating your business under the scope of your license, and they're going to be the responsible party in the absence of an owner or shareholder. So they need to go through a background check, which includes fingerprints and basic other criminal investigative procedures in order to make sure that they are of good standing. Undertrained staff, we see this a lot too. Oh, I didn't make it to a Bassett class. That's what we talked about earlier today, about getting to those Bassett certified classes. They're good for 3 years, which is nice. It gives you a nice pocket of time to where you can continue that staff member service over a period of time. You know, it's material where you kind of shake your head of like, all right, I kind of know this. This is kind of common sense for the industry I'm in. But again, sometimes when we get a little loose and fast, or we get a little lazy, a little compliant with, or complacent with some of those liquor license issues with the state laws, that's where we start to get into trouble. So having somebody who's well trained and that we can trust and follows those procedures very specifically is always great as an owner or business manager, so then you're not taking on that liability of one of your employees. Failure to obtain outdoor seating or special event license. This has probably been one of the bigger changes that we've had over the last few years with COVID and the ability to have outdoor seating, as well as sidewalk cafes. These recent changes I'll talk about in some subsequent slides, but you have to maintain the specificity that's in your license, and if you go outside of that and deviate from that plan, that's obviously a violation. So we don't want you guys to change, and we're willing to work with you as far as what it is, but it needs to be approved. There's a number of different reasons, which we'll go into later, about why that is. But we can't just last minute say, well, I didn't like it that way, it works better this way. We need to have a plan that's approved, and you need to stick to that plan. Drinking in public spaces, this is more prevalent during festivals. We'll get into that a little bit in a subsequent slide. Amplified music at festivals as well. And then the two obvious ones that you guys should be very well versed in is overservice of patrons, as well as service to minors. Yes, you can be liable for serving somebody who's intoxicated. And you're like, well, intoxicated people come into my establishment all the time. We serve alcohol. How do I know? Again, that's what the Bassett training is for. When in doubt, we're happy to be the bad guys. I know you want to have a good relationship with your patrons, especially if they're regulars, your people you see frequently. Our job is to enforce that, and it's your liquor license, not ours. And you can say that. Listen, I don't want to lose my licensure because I'm serving you more than you ought to have. Cut them off, and there's techniques that we train within Bassett to show you how to do that tactfully. It's never easy, but you have to have a procedure in place with each individual business. And your employees need to know that, so then everybody feels comfortable doing those things, those uncomfortable things. Police officers feel very comfortable doing uncomfortable things because that's our job. We have to. So if we have to come there and say, hey, guys, knock it off, we do that all the time. So call us, and we'd be happy to enforce whatever rules, regulations that you guys would have within your businesses, within your seating areas, within your festivals. That's what we're here for. So happy to help you in that regard. Oh. Of course, God bless PowerPoint. Give me a second. Stand by. The IT guys are laughing at me right now in the back. I know they are. There we go. All right. Common violations. Closing hours, like we talked about. If you are a Class A license or have retail sales, packaged goods, no selling before 9 or after 10 p.m. on Monday through Saturday, and nothing before 10 a.m. and after 9 p.m. on Sundays. Just a reminder, with everybody else within that licensure, with the bars and taverns and everything else, between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. is when there's off limits for open your premise for the consumption of alcohol or consume alcohol. So this also, according to the law, includes staff members, which a lot of people don't understand. Is that if, well, me and my staff members are cleaning up afterwards at the bar and we want to have a beer, technically that's in violation. Now, you guys all know that 30 minutes prior to close, 15 minutes last service, you need to be careful with those time frames. I mean, from a college town, I went to Western Illinois University, Harvard of the Midwest, right? Go Leathernecks. They set all the clocks forward, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, things like that. They have cell phones, things like that now. It's a different era. Everybody knows exactly what time it is, no matter where they are. So I don't think you're going to fool the masses as far as trying to amp that up a little bit quicker. But you need to be on that time frame because it's going to be difficult for you to make those hard, fast cutoffs. And it's going to be more difficult then to tell people to get out of your establishment. And again, you want to maintain that good relationship. So if you're struggling to get people out of your business or establishment, again, let us be the bad guys. Say, hey, listen, the police say that I need to be everybody out of here or I'm going to have a violation. Lean on us. Make us the ones that are enforcing this, not you as a business owner or a manager. We're happy to be that person that is enforcing that rule on your behalf. But if you have staff members that then stick around, they cannot be consuming alcohol there. If we see it, if we experience it, if we get a report of it, then we would have to act and potentially cite you for that violation. Drinking on city property. Now, this happens a lot during festivals where maybe there's more walking around, there's more open air consumption of alcohol in tents and other outdoor facilities. But it's unlawful for any person to consume any alcoholic beverage on a city sidewalk outside of the cafe areas, which we'll talk about, street, alley, parkway, or public parking lot. Now, residents are largely aware of this. They understand, I can't just go walking around. But with COVID and some of these other areas that have closed off street areas in different areas, some other visitors to our town might not realize that this is the case. I had a lot of people during Swedish Days come up to me and yeah, it's a festival. We could drink all over, right? No, you cannot. You need to keep in the designated areas, and it's your responsibility, if you've got a special event license in your drinking facility, your area, that they need to stay there. I actually had a subject from a restaurant, leave from a restaurant, not just an outdoor seating area or a tent, like a beer tent. He actually, from a restaurant, took 2 wine glasses and walked outside down 3rd Street to go see the music that was there during Swedish Days. Obviously walked right past the store owner, didn't get stopped on the way walking out with 2 glasses of wine. Obviously an issue that we want to make sure that we pay attention to. So understanding your customer base, who's in there, having appropriate signage, having appropriate barriers, again, common sense isn't that common, especially when judgment's the first thing that goes when somebody's consuming alcohol. So make sure that your staff's well trained of where your boundaries are, where people can and cannot go with alcohol, especially if you have outdoor seating areas that it may be confusing to people of where to go and when to go there. We do inspections of the outdoor seating areas for that reason. Amplified music also happens during, violations happen during our festivals predominantly, but on occasion, some weekends, we might have some outdoor seating areas that will have amplified music. There are restrictions to that. So outside of an enclosed structure, you cannot have any amplified music except between noon and 10 p.m. Sunday through Thursday, and noon to 11 p.m. Friday and Saturday. So you got to shut off the music by 10 p.m. Weeknights. Weekends, it's 11 p.m. So just keep that in mind. We haven't had too many issues with that, except for the bands are probably the worst at this, because one more song, during festivals, and they get a crowd that's riled up. Generally, if you're a store owner and you've got amplified music for your patio area or something that has something projecting outside, most places are pretty good about making sure that's shut off at a given time. Some even have timers to make sure that happens. But when you have live music, that is generally when we run into those issues for the amplified music outside. Especially with how close our residences are to the downtown area. There's a lot of pockets where homes are very close to those businesses. We get a lot of complaints from them saying, hey, listen, I'm just trying to go to bed. Great for them. I love living downtown, but I don't want to hear, rock and roll at 11 p.m. or got to work tomorrow type thing. So just be conscientious of your neighbors who are the residents there. All right. This is the part I'm going to try and not mess up. Gene laughs. So where a lot of people have questions and where a lot of things kind of get into the gray, and I'm trying not to overcomplicate this, is special event applications. So first I want to talk about the differences between a special event, according to our city code, and what a private function is. So a special event is any event conducted by an educational, fraternal, political, civic, religious, or nonprofit organization. This is what the state says it is. Versus a private function is any prearranged private party function or event for a specific social or business occasion, either by invitation or reservation, not open to the general public, where the guests in attendance are served in a room or rooms designated and used exclusively for the private party function or event. So that last part's the big factor, is it's not open to the general public. It's a separate event. While it might be special for the people attending, don't get that confused with what we consider to be a special event that would need a special event permit. So private functions are different in that regard. So for example, a wedding that has a wedding guest list where people are invited to that function who attend a wedding in a specific area would be one thing, versus a special event that fits one of our other classifications, which we'll talk about, is going to be different. So these are the Class E licenses. All right. There's several different versions. Again, I don't want to overcomplicate this. The ones we're going to focus on are E336. All right. Those are going to be applicable during a city fair or festival. All right. Those festivals have to be sanctioned festivals by the city. Those sanctioned festivals are as follows. And thank you for putting up with all my animations. I got bored one day. These are the festivals of which we then submit those special event applications for, or you would submit those special event applications for. To start, so the E3 application is a private vendor on a public property. So example of this would be Festival of the Vine. I have a B, C, D, E, or G license. Yes, she's checking me here. Can't be an A license. And I want to sell on public property. I would need to fill out the E3. The example of this would be Festival of the Vine. So any property that is not mine as a business and I want to go to a public location. Private vendor on private property. So let's say I have an outdoor seating license and it's very specific, but I own more property outside of my establishment. I want to extend that license for a special event outside to a larger area. This would be an example of that. One time Chianti's did this with their outdoor seating, where they had an outdoor seating license for a specific area. They had more property in front of their business. They wanted to extend that. They then did so with a special event license in order to have a larger beer garden area out front. So that would be an example I'd give you for the E4. But they owned that property, and that was their property. The next one would be a private vendor on private property, but that property is owned by somebody else. Obviously, they're going to get permission from that other person, but let's say they wanted to do a collaboration. Art History wanted to go to Penrose. They're sitting next to each other in the crowd right now, is the funny part. So, serendipity maybe, I don't know. So they wanted to do an event together, all right? And Penrose invited Art History to come to their parking lot to have an event, a collaboration. They do something together. Penrose would give permission to Art History to then have a special event. Maybe they got sick of doing their Oktoberfest and said, Art History, you do it this year. We'll have you over there. They would need to fill out the E5 license. He's shaking his head no. E6 would be specific to the Chamber of Commerce because they are special. I'd like to remind them that they're special. No, we love them. So that's the specifics of the Chamber of Commerce using that license specifically for those Chamber of Commerce events. There's other provisions with that. Good so far? Great. Hang with me. All right, so with that special event permits, there's outdoor seating licenses, which you can get with a B, C, D, or G. And you don't necessarily need a special event license. Special event license is for those sanctioned events. The outdoor seating license, which we talked about earlier, are for those licensed establishments that can happen at any time on your property with outdoor seating areas. But it must be on your private property and enclosed according to code. We have very specific code in there, what type of boundaries, barriers, if you will, fencing, that you have to have in those areas in order to meet those requirements. And the reason is it's a balance between the containment of your patrons, all right, in order to provide containment of that alcohol on your property for liability reasons, but also allow for safety reasons of egress. So if an incident happened where I needed to get everybody out of here because of a fire alarm or a critical incident where we just needed to evacuate, they have the opportunity to do that, and it's not unsafe for them to do so. That's where the fire department comes in, and we work in concert with them in order to make sure that we have all the necessary requirements there to meet those safety concerns. There's also other concerns about spacing and movement where we don't want to overburden the area with tables, so there's other safety things that we consider in that outdoor seating license as well. It's got to be inspected by us again, and it's got to follow that plan exactly. So if we get there and the plan you submitted has tables in the opposite spots of what we talked about, and you're like, well, I just changed my mind, then we need to resubmit a new plan, because what's on file needs to be what you guys have planned out. All right, and we've seen that on occasion. So again, outside the scope of your license means you have a plan that's different than what you initially submitted to us. So it needs to fit that plan exactly, because that's what's been approved. These outdoor seating licenses, it kind of extends also to the special event licenses in that outdoor seating area or that special event venue also needs to be approved in a similar fashion following those provisions prior to the issuance of a license. This is not the same as a sidewalk cafe license, and that does require a license. It's not just a right that you have if you have a sidewalk in front of your area. You do have to apply for that, because we recently put this in there in an effort to try to provide some opportunity for businesses to not have to turn away guests who are interested in maybe having a beer while they're waiting for a table, or just a small table outside where we have an opportunity to serve somebody. So it's a maximum of 2 guests that are allowed at that table, and it cannot impede any foot traffic of the sidewalk in front of your business, nor extend past your business. There has to be a 4-foot space between your business tables, those tables that are against your business, and the sidewalk where people are going to be traversing. There also has to be a 5-foot space between the edge of your business and the corner of your business if it's a cornered business. It can't extend past your business either. So you can't push tables up together. That would be a violation. We can't have 4, 5, 6 people tables. We don't want this to be a secondary seating area. It's more of a temporary seating area for people who might be waiting in order to then enter the restaurant, or might only be there temporarily. All right. How am I at time? Not bad. So getting right into it, another big question that we have other than outdoor seating and some licensing issues, and hopefully you guys are kind of thinking of questions in the back of your head to the point where we get to that, but it's happy hour. I had to kind of learn about happy hour because I haven't been to happy hour in a while. I've got small kids. I don't get out to happy hour very often. So what is happy hour? How does it apply? What can you do and what can't you do based on state law and our restrictions? You know, everybody wants to promote their business in some way to get people to come in. Everybody wants, you know, some sort of incentive to say, hey, come to me, this is something I can offer you, because you want to reward your patrons. You want to reward your customers who are continually there, and you want to get new ones. It's the reason you're in what you do. But there are some prohibited acts that we want to make sure you're aware of, so then you're not in violation of any of those, and potentially be in violation of your license there. Serving 2 drinks for the price of 1, 2-for-1 sales, except Boilermakers, I learned, are 1 drink. Did not know. Serving unlimited number of drinks for a fixed price. So that's a violation. So if anybody does a bottomless mimosa or an all-you-can-drink special, that's in violation. Increasing the volume of alcohol in a drink without increasing the price proportionately. Intoxicated people might ask for this, and you might be like, yeah, all right, whatever, buddy, pour a little in the straw so they think they're getting more. But increasing volume of alcohol in a drink obviously is against a big no-no if you take the Bassett class as well, those state regulations. Permitting games that involve alcohol as a prize, and then advertising or promoting in any way any of those aforementioned things. So you don't want to say, hey, come do any of one of these things that I've just mentioned. What state law allows for, so the things you can do, are selling 2 or more drinks to 1 customer at a time. All right, so I go up and I get a beer and a glass of wine for me and my wife, right? I'm drinking the beer, she's drinking the wine, and we go to our table. That's acceptable. It's not a 2-for-1 special or anything like that. Discounted drinks for up to 4 hours per day. That could be non-consecutive, but no more than 15 hours per week, and it can't be any later than 10 p.m. But with that, there has to be a notice of that price reduction for the discounted drinks 7 days prior to the promotion on your website or Facebook page or whatever. There has to be some sort of notification 7 days prior. So you can't just last minute throw a sign out in front of your business and say, hey, half-price drinks tonight. That's not allowed. You need to give a 7-day prior notification of any sort of discounted event that you're going to do. In the section up there, the 235 LCS 5/6-28 in the compiled statutes, I'll give you the resources at the end. There'll be a resources page. That's where you'll look for this one. You're allowed to do proportionate pricing. So if you do tall drinks or other sized drinks that are proportionally priced to the size or amount of alcohol that are in the drink, then that's acceptable. So if you offer different sizing, tall pitchers of margaritas that have more alcohol in them, but the drink has more a reflected price of that, that's appropriate. That would be allowed. You could also, in a party package, and this is where it gets very specific, so I would encourage you to read the law if this is something you're considering. There's party and meal packages which allow you to have the ability to sell food and alcohol together in a packaged price. But there are a lot of restrictions with that, and you need to be very understanding of what those are. But it has to be for a party, function, or event, or social business occasion. Has to be an invitation or reservation for a defined number of people identified by a lanyard, wristband, shirt, etc. Not open to the public, so this is a private event. You've having a specified party at your establishment for an occasion or a reason, and the food offered in a dedicated event space separate from the rest of the business. And there's no limit to the number of drinks served to the person, so long as you're not over serving them, of course. But the time limit for that package is 3 hours. So for example, I want to have a retirement party at an establishment. I can have that with a specified list, with a specified area, with a specified price per person type situation, so long as I meet all these provisions, for no more than 3 hours. And that's allowable by state law. Again, private functions defined in here, what that entails. Weddings, private parties, fundraisers, other examples that would fit that sort of private function. So the wedding establishments, Riverside Receptions, the Harrington, they're all very well versed in this type of activity. But guests obviously are served in a room designated and used exclusively for that function or event. I don't think I've ever paid for a drink at the weddings I've gone to, if you can think in that context. But it's not subject for a time limit of 3 hours. All right. So inspections. This one kind of, I don't want to say bugs people, but takes people by surprise at times. Any law enforcement officer or liquor control agent may enter without a warrant. So if you hold a liquor license in the state of Illinois or in our city, both, we can enter your establishment to inspect your business to make sure it meets all the requirements. We do not need a warrant to do that. I know everybody is very concerned about right to privacy and understanding, but you're a public business opened to serve alcohol in our community, and there are a lot of responsibilities associated with that. So the law allows us to make sure that you guys are being responsible business owners and adhering to those laws. So at any time, if we want to drop in, do a compliance check, you have to oblige us and show us what we would like to see as far as making sure you have all the appropriate signage, all the appropriate license displayed, all the appropriate Bassett certifications available to us, and we're happy to help you achieve any of those deficiencies if you don't have any of those. I actually brought a folder with me today that has the government warnings, human trafficking warnings, if you're a bar or tavern or a place that needs to have those up. Making sure you have your framed warnings up. I suggest they be framed of the state and city licenses, so then we can make sure that you're in compliance as necessary. Because if not, there's consequences. First step's going to be documentation. The police officer is probably going to hear about this first, or we're going to get some sort of report that gets documented to the police. If we physically observe it, or we're on a call where we see this going on, or I'm doing a liquor compliance check, or one of my officers is, we're going to then document it in a police report that this occurred. Every liquor license holder has the right to a hearing prior to any fines or sanctions being imposed. That's in state law. So before anything happens to you, you have that right to have a hearing where you get to present your side of the story. I did know this was happening. I didn't know this was happening. Actually, that this is not what happened. This officer was mistaken, or I'm so sorry, I'll be in compliance next time. Whatever the case might be. You have the opportunity to present whatever you'd like to present in that hearing. If you are found in violation, the potential there is fines, potentially loss of service. Generally, if there's a violation that's significant enough to have a guilty verdict, I guess you call it. What's the civil penalty terminology? Finding. That's the word I was looking for. Finding. A finding. You could lose service, and you guys all know what that can cost you on a daily basis if you lose a day of service. That could be more costly than any fines that maybe we might be able to impose based on your circumstance, especially time of day. Loss of license, obviously that's not something that is going to be beneficial to you at all as a license holder. And then we report those incidents to the state, who then may revoke your state liquor license, which is going to be very detrimental to your business as a whole. So, to kind of wrap things up a little bit here, cautionary advice, all right? Avoid assumptions, right? Word of mouth is great in our community between all the restaurants and businesses. I see some competing businesses sitting next to each other, all friendly with one another. You guys, great turnout today, I appreciate that. But the word of mouth, the rumor mill, sometimes is to our disadvantage. Everyone else is doing it. Well, they can do it. Why can't I do it? Well, you don't know what their provisions are. You don't know what their specific liquor license is. You don't know what conversations they've had specifically with me or Gene or anybody else. So you need to make sure that you understand what your circumstances and what your requirements are. Don't rely on, hey, everybody else is doing it, or, hey, I get to do this in my other restaurant, why can't I here? Every circumstance is different. Again, why laws can be very complicated is because we have to weigh each circumstance differently. If you have a liquor license in another community, they're going to be different. So make sure that you understand how ours in Geneva work as opposed to maybe one of our neighboring communities as well. Hey, I heard that, all right? If they can't do it again, why can't I? Stay current. All right. Again, we've had a lot of provisions over the last couple of years to some of the licensing issues with outdoor seating license, the cafe license. The law spells it out very specifically, and I'll show you where to go for that. I'm a big nerd. I like reading law. As you can tell, I'm wearing polyester and have pens in a pocket, right? So I like learning about that stuff, okay? It's dry, it's difficult to get through sometimes, I understand, but it's a wealth of information. So it's really good to at least peruse through it and go through it and understand what you can and cannot do, and keep up with that on occasion so you know you're not going to be in violation, because that ultimately is going to cost you time, money, potentially even a violation or a liability issue if one of your patrons gets hurt or injured. That's a larger insurance issue for you. Again, check those sources. All right, I'll give you those in a second on the next slide here, but when in doubt, you can always ask. The Liquor Control Act is found under 235 ILCS 5/ is where it starts. Even if you just Google that, it'll pop up the ilga.gov website. Again, it's dry and long, but it's very informative, and it will help you, give you guidance as far as what your questions might be with state requirements. The Liquor Control Commission actually is very, very informative. There is a commissioner's handbook that Gene and I refer to frequently for questions and answers, and that's kind of how it's framed in this booklet. Is it's categorized of, hey, I've got a question given a certain category, what's the answer according to state law? Now, this is all state requirements. There might be some more specificity within city code, so if it doesn't list your circumstance in here, I would then refer you to city code, which is on the City of Geneva's website, which is that next resource there. Under government for residents, right under city code, it'll take you to our municipal code. Section 2, or chapter 2, I should say, is liquor control under section 4. So the liquor control section, it's thick, all right? There's a lot to it, but it gives you all the definitions necessary for understanding your responsibilities of a business owner, business manager, shareholder, whatever your circumstances are within the community, to make sure that you're in compliance. All right, I talk too much. I'm notorious for that. But this is all my information. If you want to take a picture of this screen, I'm at the top there, my email and desk phone number. You can always email me or leave me a message. Gene's information there as well. I'm trying to keep as much off of Deputy Chief Dean's plate as I can, so I will answer any question I can, and if I don't have one or I need to refer to him, I will. But we're your primary resources if you do have a question regarding any of these codes or circumstances. I'll be the face you see out there with Dustin doing our checks on the outdoor seating licenses for compliance checks. I might have some of my younger officers come in to do compliance checks to kind of see what your business looks like, have a conversation with you, get a face-to-face, to build that relationship as well, because that's ultimately what we want to have, is a good relationship with all of you, to make sure that you can rely on us when you need us as a department, and then we can then count on you guys to let us know when you need help, so we can make sure that we work together as far as this liquor license situation, and everyone stays in compliance. So, with that said, does anybody have any questions that I can field? First hand, go ahead.
Dave Siller from Middle House. I have one question about Sidewalk Cafe. Last year, umbrellas were not allowed. That wasn't mentioned on the slide.
Correct.
Is umbrellas allowed this year?
So the question was, are umbrellas allowed on the sidewalk cafes? No, they are not. So just the tables and 2 chairs for each one. So no umbrellas allowed.
For a unique situation with homecoming parade, would that fall under a private function? If I was to have a corral area, have the Crazy Mothers Club of Geneva High Schools come in, and they swarm me. And last year I was...
Is that an official club? I remember seeing that. So if they're within, are you talking about extending outside of your business?
Not extending, allowing more than 2 per table for a limited period of time if I was to apply for that license.
So
They come early and they watch the parade, and then they disperse or come inside. I was wondering if I could,
So-
if I'm allowed to apply for a license to allow more seating
So-
for that period, for that day.
So technically, that would be an a special event. Well, that's not a sanctioned special event. So unfortunately, no, that wouldn't apply. You could have them inside your business.
That doesn't fall, so I Is that a private function that's on the sidewalk?
But it's public property. So the fact that it's public property, unfortunately, it wouldn't extend to that availability for you to be able to have a private function there. If there was private property elsewhere, then you could have a private function there. So if you had a larger easement, then you would be able to have a private function. Yeah. Go ahead.
The E5 license, private vendor on private property, like you gave the example of Penrose and Art History. Do both
Yes.
people have to have a liquor license, or can you make an agreement with someone, private property, to use their space and get the permit to extend your space?
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly what you said. Give me Gene's better examples.
Yeah, no.
So our alleyway, we know the woman that owns that alleyway.
Gotcha.
And if she allowed us to make an agreement that we could then get a special permit for one of the city events. Or there's a pergola behind our building that's owned by the owners of the building on stage.
For a special event, yes, not like a continuous.
Yeah.
If it met kind of zoning and safety issues as far as egress and what kind of alley that is, private alley,
Well, they shut it down for Thriller.
okay. We'd probably have to look
But if
at,
it was only during certain hours,
Yeah.
we had it shut.
we'd have to look at the specific space, but I will tell you, for instance, when Graham's 318 used to do their chocolate wine tastings off-site, they would secure a space across 3rd Street at a private business who approved them using their front lawn. That would be what that E5 is for. Yes, you could work with another business to move your inventory, basically, yeah.
Another question.
She's probably going to step right back up here, but go ahead.
And only because a lot of these people are seasoned people. This
Yes.
is our first year into this, so I read a lot and try to,
Don't worry, me too.
yeah. The last call, so like our hours are till 10 o'clock on the weekends.
Yes.
So last call, 30 minutes prior, last service, 15 minutes prior, but at 10 o'clock, people are still sipping their drinks. There's
So,
no law to kick them out, it just has to be by 2 a.m. or not so much.
it's by the closing hours of ordinance.
Of ordinance, that's 2 a.m. So if people linger, that's not on, that's okay.
So
We
lo-
can't serve them. Can we serve them after 10 o'clock if our closing hours are supposed to be 10, if we want to stay open a little later?
Yes, the ordinance closing hours are 2. So while you are more restrictive than the ordinance, you just can't be less restrictive than the ordinance.
So if we decided to stay open later, we don't have to do last call at 9:30, we can do it,
Yes, so,
so long as we're closed by 2.
yes, so, yeah, exactly.
Once again, I know that I get my feet wet in this. Can you differentiate the difference between last call and last service? I'm a little confused by that.
So last call is letting everybody know a half hour ahead of time, this is the last opportunity for you to purchase alcohol. Then that gives basically 15 minutes for everybody to purchase it, and then at 15 minutes, you can no longer serve any more alcohol. So,
Another question.
yeah.
The happy hour stuff. We do something on Thursdays, Takeout Thursday, to support local restaurants. Bring your takeout to us, buy a glass of wine, get your second one at 50% off. Does that fall within the 4 hours of a discounted drink price? And we advertise it.
So that would fall under a 2-for-1 special.
Well,
So that would,
no, it's not buy one, get one. It's buy one, get one at 50%.
which
That's still buy one, get one.
I think that still qualifies as a buy one, get one. Because you're buying something to get something at a discounted price is the letter of the law. So in order for you to do that, it would have to be a meal package of some kind with people bringing in their food that wouldn't apply. So if you, like, let's say if you said, if you supplied the food, it'd be different.
But if they bring takeout, so we can't offer that.
No. Technically.
So what is the discount? What is the rule on the discounted? You have to work 4 hours a day, but no more than so many hours.
So,
You can
I
offer
think-
discounted drink.
So I think your problem with that circumstance is the phraseology. So if I want to offer discounted drinks in my business, I would advertise something along the lines of, from this time, these items are discounted. And I would have to advertise that 7 days ahead of time. And you can do it under the guise of, like, bring your food in or whatever. You know, one 50% glass of wine per visit would be more appropriate as opposed to buy one, get one.
Yep,
So you just need to remove that first glass from the incentive,
50% off your first class, bring takeout.
or 50% off a glass of wine. They stay there and they purchase more glasses of wine for full price, that's acceptable. So if they have a discounted rate for that, that would be okay. Am I saying that correctly? Okay.
Where are you selling? When you said no alcohol from 2 to 6, you sell 6:30?
Yes. You could
All right.
you could sell
We're not a breakfast place, right?
kegs and eggs. Yes, you could sell within those windows of time, just not outside of those windows of time. In the back, Ms. Rush. Yes.
Nice job today.
Thank you.
Yes, it was very entertaining.
Do you have a question?
I do. And this might also go a little bit to Jean. Obviously, one of our never things in the chamber is when our members want to have an after hours or special event, and we always refer them to Jean just to make sure. Can you, number one, just explain it again?
Sure.
How it works, and number two, if they aren't allowed to have alcohol, is there any way possible in the future there might be some special little permit created for them?
I'll let you answer this one.
Got answers for both.
If you repeat the question too for the video.
Yes. Yes, it's the chamber asking about our E2 special event licenses, which maybe some of you have applied for a business in town that does not hold a liquor license that is having an event at their location. For instance, grand openings, perfect example. State law says that you cannot give alcohol away at an event where you are promoting a business, and that event has been advertised to the general public, per se. So, to allow to have alcohol at those events, we created this E2 special event license, which allows any of our liquor licensees who have on-premise licensing to be able to apply for that special event license so they can move their inventory over to this event and provide the alcohol at that event. And so some of you, I'm sure, have done that for other businesses in town. So that's how that works. That's how you can have liquor at those types of events.
But
Be-
it must be somebody who carries the license, so.
Yes.
ABC store that sells books that doesn't have a license is not supposed to have alcohol at an event
Cor-
unless they have somebody carrying.
At a public event, yes. If that little bookstore is doing customer appreciation, after hours maybe, closed to the public, they have an RSVP list, they know who's coming, you can't walk in off the street, there's no licensing needed for that.
Okay.
And that's state language that we have to follow.
Okay, so.
Yeah,
if-
private.
So close to the public,
Not on their social media,
no.
none of that.
So, all right, so would that pertain to something that we did and only the invitation was sent to our members?
If you're promoting business at the event, that kicks it out to an E2.
Okay,
That's-
promoting business in what sense?
Like these business after hours, correct.
Okay, so you consider that promoting business even though it's just being.
The state does,
The
yes.
state considers that
Yes.
business. Okay, but
Now-
if it is an event that is an invite only, not promoting business, like you said,
Mhm.
customer appreciation, they do not have to have.
That's
that
correct.
All right.
Yeah. And will there be something in that's state law that we have to follow? We're a non-home rule community, so we can't be less restrictive. We can be more restrictive, but we're trying to accommodate as best we can with
That
those.
part, I don't know if any of us knew, I think we did, but.
Gotcha.
That's really important.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So does that mean that the RSVP under that guides, customer appreciation,
Mhm.
are allowed to sell any wares or anything during that time?
Technically, no. Yeah.
That would make sense.
Yep. Oh, right behind you though first.
Is
Oh.
providing alcohol to that bookstore, do they need to have a catering or do they not?
Right, the other option would be for them to get a liquor licensee in town that has a catering liquor license, which I know you do. You wouldn't need any extra, you wouldn't need the extra special event license for that. There's yourself and a couple other places in town that have that catering liquor license, so that would cover that. They would have to work with you to do that, but they wouldn't need anything additional.
If a business hired us to do their catering, we had that license.
Absolutely.
We didn't apply for anything.
Correct. That falls under your catering liquor license. Yes?
So as a follow-up to that, like if that business is providing, the business that has the liquor license is providing liquor for that event, or alcohol, that needs to be paid for then still, right? Like that can't be
Correct.
like.
Yeah, that would be,
Yeah, so it can't be like, you know, hey, can this
Right.
stay and sample for free?
right, and technically,
Alcohol needs to be paid.
yeah, and technically that would need to be taken care of prior to the event, off-site. You can't be charging $5 for a glass of wine with that E2
We
license.
could do a ticket if we,
Right.
if they had been paid beforehand. A ticket could be
believe
given to the invited guests to give to, correct?
I think that might fall under the party package. If there's a ticket, if it involves like an event where I pay for a ticket for a party package or a meal package to say I'm a ticket to this event, and then that would fall under those provisions. So you'd have to meet those party package requirements.
I think I'm just gonna do it.
I would, well, it's hard because you have to overlay the state laws of all those provisions of private function versus special event with our special event licensing. Again, why I didn't want to overcomplicate this too much with what I told you, because it can get hairy with the circumstance. So you have to evaluate how it's promoted, who's attending, and to what extent you want to advertise that, if at all, or you can at all.
Does customer appreciation, sorry, we were talking about, should they have to pay for alcohol? Like the people, the patrons coming in?
If it's a private event.
If it's a
Private event, no?
if it's a private event, it's a private event.
It's a private event. It's like in your home.
Exactly. So if it's a private event and you want to serve alcohol at the private event, as long as it meets those other requirements where it's locked down, general public's not allowed, it's not required to charge. Think of like I'm having a wedding in my business, more so. If I want to have a private event in my business, you know, I sell birdhouses and I want to have a birdhouse wedding and serve alcohol there, right? In that private area, it's going to be locked in there. It's going to be different. Yep. She's looking at you, Gene. Go ahead.
The slide that said, no package sales after 9 p.m.
Yeah, if you have a
Is that just for the retail licensing, or is
That's
that
for a liquor store.
For a liquor store, so like, the brewery can still sell packaged beer to go after 9 p.m. is the question, is my
Yes, 'cause you're
specific
C
question,
class.
right?
you're a different.
So that was just for the retail license, not
Strictly
for-
off-premise.
Okay.
Yeah, because brewery and brew pub, I think, fall under different requirements than that even.
Yeah.
So it gives you both.
Thank you.
Where's those hours?
Thank you.
There it is. So again, because you were asking about the hours as well, this is the hours for the A licensing, and then this is the hours for everybody else. So all those early risers that want to get up and serve alcohol at 8 or 6 a.m., it actually is allowable. Go ahead.
Kind of on a different subject that really wasn't covered today with the recent cocktails to go legislation that just got put back into place. Reading through it, there's really not any language referring to those on-premise accounts that have that dual license being able to sell alcohol in its original package. It only pertains to mixed drinks that are bottled in-house. Where does that fall? Is alcohol in its original package, whether it be liquor, beer, wine, able to be sold unopened, still sealed in its original package?
Do you have an answer for this? Sure. I mean, my thought is, unless you have a license that allows the package sales,
We have, yes, we have the Class A5, and some of you have that already. The A5 license allows restaurants to sell for package sale the alcohol that you also offer on premise. It's up to 5% of your total sales. There's limitations on how much of it you can sell. But now with this to-go law that the state has kind of enacted, it sunsets, I think, in January 2024, right now. So we'll see if they just decide to keep it. But if you hold an A5 with the city that allows that package sale of your liquor in your establishment, it also now covers the cocktails to go. So you could do either with that. But you have to have that extra A5 license with the city. We just enacted that in the last 6 months, I think. We've got quite a few people that have it. And again, the state is going to sunset that in January of 2024 right now, so we'll see what happens.
How are the containers sealed? Required to be sealed?
Our language, it's in our code, the language, yeah, there's specific language. We just copied the state language on that, so I can email it to you if you'd like. Yep. Does that answer your question? Okay.
So I'm all for it.
I've got a question.
Go for it.
Fresh Time Market, a little new to the Geneva area.
Sure.
And for merchandising alcohol, we just have an aisle and an end cap, and we gate it up overnight, we lock it up. Do you think we'll ever be able to merchandise outside of that area? I don't know if other retailers are allowed, but in other cities, we can merchandise alcohol in certain areas of the store, but right now, I think we can.
In that you want it outside of the fenced-in area?
Well, just anywhere throughout
Maybe
the
in the
store.
front, or,
Yeah.
I know a lot of other places do that.
Yeah, but what I've been told is we can't, we're not allowed to outside of those areas.
Well, obviously, you're going to have to defer to your corporate policies of what they require you to do. Sometimes they may or may not, and I don't know how much control you have based on your role there, but they may require you to keep it in certain areas for liability purposes and control of that area. As far as other areas, I think that's going to be pretty strictly set within our code as far as the sale hours.
Yeah, and the locations, I mean, we could look into updating our code language. I know technology now is such where you can't ring up a bottle of liquor before a certain time in your own store. It just won't let you do that. So that's something we can look at if we think, enough people would like that. Because I know, yeah, I've seen that myself in other stores. They've got stuff a little bit.
You go to St. Charles, or
Yeah.
higher in St. Charles, Batavia, and merchandise outside.
Right.
of those areas. Right now, we're just counting. So
Okay.
that's great.
Yeah, we'll take a look at that.
Good question.
Gene, when I was in Ohio, they had a DORA rule where you can take an open container out of your business as long as you're going to another business. Would the city of Geneva ever think about that for festivals?
That's been a conversation for a while. I haven't been part of many of them, but I've heard some rumblings. It's a difficult thing to enforce because of a lot of different regulations. Generally, where they do that, they have physical control over those generalized areas. I know I've been down to Springfield for different times of the year where they do that, and I know during COVID a lot of areas would be blocked off and certain Jersey barriers and stuff like that. The problem is with our downtown area, it's so wide open and there's multiple jurisdictions. So like King County, for example, has the courthouse to where we have to get approval from a bunch of different stakeholders in order for us to allow that. And it'd be difficult to say, hey, you can't go on the courthouse lawn, but you can go here and there. We're not going to put a fence up and things like that. So it's been discussed, but I don't know how much traction it ultimately will get unless Gene knows more.
Yeah, I know that, some folks were interested during COVID and right after all those regulations lifted about maybe opening 3rd Street, that kind of thing. But as a policy, the council right now, our city council, did not want to go down that path. So that's my answer right now. But I know, and we, again, have to follow state law as far as public property, liquor, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Well, thank you all very much. Appreciate the turnout. And if you guys have any other questions, we'll mill about up here for a little bit. But to save the people of you in at home who are going to watch this anytime, we're going to probably end the transmission, I guess, if you will. If our IT guys are still in back or if they're sleeping, I'm not sure.
I don't think they're there yet.
But thank you again. I'll put back up the slide too of our information if you want to take a picture on your way out. Again, the Bassett sign up is over on the table, as well as a sign up sheet if you guys didn't get a chance to sign up on your way in. But thank you.